And also doubling down on this, if you want to say, they are also well equipped. I have to throw this up. They're well equipped to deal with the deluge of controversy that they would have to deal with in acquiring Deshaun Watson. Again,
Yeah,
going
we
back
haven't
to
even talked about that. I'm
going
glad you
back
brought that
to
up.
going
Yeah.
back to the Vic situation, and remember how they handled that. So this is something here that the Eagles are equipped to deal with both on the field. They got the 3 first-round draft picks. They settled at least some edge rushing answers with Hassan Reddick. Plus, on top of that, this is a team that has already been through the deluge of serious criticism. I have friends, I have relatives. I'm sure you guys have friends and relatives that turned around and jumped off when they turned around and they made the Vic signing. So
Oh yeah.
this is a team that's equipped to deal with.
John McMullen, Jody McDonald, your Mag Birds 365 guys here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. This is one of the few days of the year where I actually will break my own rule of not having an alcoholic beverage before noon. Don't know if I'm going to go there today or not. Still to be determined. But happy St. Patty's Day, everybody. We've got a good Irishman joining us here on
the show. What's up, guys?
Kind of tough to make Santoliquito into an Irishman, but we'll give it our best shot. How you been, Joe?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Good to see you, Joe.
Good
to get you back on the show. It's that time of year for Joe Santoliquito, so you know it's the spring. Carson Wentz has got a new home, so I guess we're saying it's an annual trip. It's sort of like St. Patty's Day. We can put down a date on the calendar and say, oh, Carson's going to go to a new team. Quarterback 1, but for team number 3, a lot of validation for your original reporting. Thanks. Recently, now you and I have known about this for many years, but recently a couple players talked about, so now we can talk about it. The I wouldn't say famous, but shoving match leading up to the Super Bowl with Darren Sproles, which people are surprised at. Because what kind of guy Darren Sproles is, but yeah, I mean, a lot of insecurity, a lot of personality as far as being an introvert versus extroverts with Carson Wentz. Just a lot of people taking his personality the wrong way versus Jalen Hurts, the Eagles' current quarterback, who sort of has that natural ability to draw people in. Is that sort of a fair assessment of the two sort of leadership styles?
I would say that's absolutely correct. Yes. Yeah. Carson, again, I believe Carson has he certainly has the cerebral intelligence to turn around and see things. Obviously, I think we know by now. I don't know if he doesn't have the emotional intelligence right now. I think he's capable of doing it. We've seen him make overtures in that direction when he was at the tail end of his stay here in Philadelphia. I'm going to cringe by saying this, but I think maybe it's a big reason for it. If you remember the infamous dinner where he took all the guys out, and it may have had something to do with a little story on January 21st, 2019. He wanted to bond with these guys. And that was the thing, too, guys, is that when I was gathering this stuff 3 years ago, people want to bond with him. They want to embrace him. They want to take him in. And here, the impression I've always gotten was that it was Wentz that was pushing back and just saying, hey, wait a second here. And that's on Wentz. And it seems as if it's always been on Wentz. He's had this, he's awkward in large situations, in large locker room situations. If you guys remember the number of times he was barely around, and then again, quarterbacks are barely around. Starting quarterbacks are barely around in NFL locker rooms. But I would go out to numerous social events with the guys and various charitable events and things of that nature, and you would see 80% of the guys, 90% of the guys, 99.9% of the guys, and the one guy that was invariably missing was Wentz. So this is his last stop motel. I would not be surprised if 2 years from now I see him playing in 2022 and 2023. But I wouldn't be surprised if after the age of 30, or maybe even, depending upon what happens next season, he just says, the hell with this. He's collected his money. He does have a Super Bowl ring. He is responsible for getting the Eagles that Super Bowl ring in 2017. Not solely responsible, obviously, but he is a major, major reason why they won the Super Bowl in 2017. And it's reached the point where, do I want to put myself through this grind again? His body, as we know, has a history of breaking down. So I will say this: it does add a whole lot of fun when the Eagles will be playing the Commanders. Commander Carson, I believe they're calling him, Washington.
Yeah, that was awkward. Poor Carson. Even the social media. I've said, look, if I have an agent, a big time agent, Mike McCartney or somebody like that, I would tell Mike. I said, look, I'll sign. I'll take a few less shekels if I don't have to do this goofy social media stuff, because these guys come off like so awkward. I feel bad for him. Carson, remember when he signed his big extension here and him and Jeffrey Lurie did that awkward? That might be the most awkward video of all time, with those two trying to look natural. I feel bad for those guys. And Carson had to go out there and talk about taking command. Taking command. What a terrible nickname that is. But
yeah. By the way, that will switch, and I think it'll switch very soon. It'll certainly switch in cities like Dallas, Philadelphia, and New York. They will soon be the Washington Commies.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Okay. Nobody thinks about these things.
We'll see how that politically goes. All right. Here's a question I have for you, Joe, when it comes to Carson Wentz, and I'm going to mix a couple of sports here. I'm a Doc Rivers fan. I've been long before he became the Sixers coach, and I thought they got an excellent coach when they got him. Sometimes he does things that make me scratch my head, and I'll call him on the carpet on the air. But I overall still think he's a dynamite coach. He just got voted one of the 15 greatest coaches in the history of the NBA. Enough said. But I was very critical of him in that I thought he enabled Ben Simmons, that he defended him at every single turn. He called Philadelphia fans and all the Philadelphia people, how can you not understand this man's a treasure? He's buried treasure up in Brooklyn, but I digress. But I thought that it was just major mishandling by Doc Rivers. Did the Eagles enable Carson Wentz?
My God, yeah. Yeah, and that was a big problem. I equate it to a spoiled child. And that's why, at least with the original story, that's why guys lurked in the shadows, we'll say, when it came to expressing themselves. And I think John will attest to that too. I don't think anybody was like completely overt in coming out and saying things. And originally, again, if you guys remember, I got accused of, you're seeking out guys that don't like Wentz. Well, I didn't know anybody that didn't like Wentz. And again, I go back to how the whole thing started. Walking out after the Dallas game, after the Dallas loss on Sunday night at the Link in Philadelphia, and making what I thought was an innocuous comment that, hey, Mike Groh's really screwing this up. And the guy turned around and goes, Joe, it's not Groh. It's Wentz. He's doing this, and it's basically all the things that we know now. And that shocked me. And then when I went back, there again, I was the one that people came to. I wasn't lurking. I wasn't the one that was going out and, what can I dig up on this and what can I dig up on that? No, this happened all by happenstance. And in the beginning, at least, this was volunteered to me. And then it was up to me in getting out of my own thick-headed way, just like, there might be something here. And then finally, after getting knocked on the head a few times, that's when I turned around and started cracking my own engines up. But I remember going to Matt Mullen. I remember going to Evan Macy at the Philly Voice. I said, listen, some of these guys are talking here a little bit, and that's where that's where it started to begin. I'd like to think, and I was hoping, how crazy this may sound, considering I'm supposed to be a Wentz hater. I am not. I'm not a hater of anyone. I was actually hoping he would do well in Indianapolis. I know someone there, a very, very, very prominent Colt, that if Wentz did well, this very, very prominent Colt would do well as well. And they still did well, but in the end, Carson did what Carson's been prone to do. And the Eagles have that crack at this guy 2 times a year, at least I think for the next 2 years. I don't know if he's going to play beyond that, but he again, the hope is that he gets out of his way. It's like a beautiful girl that has her quirks, and one boyfriend says to another, "Dude, watch yourself with her," and it still happens.
It's a good point. So now let's take it back in to Philadelphia, the NovaCare complex, that particular locker room, Joe, because you're writing for Bleeding Green Nation these days as well. I saw you put up a piece yesterday with her buddy Barrett Brooks.
Yeah.
Boy, this is an interesting disconnect because Barrett's got, basically Deshaun Watson in Philadelphia. He's not the only one. I got a text from another former player who thinks the Eagles are getting Deshaun Watson. And I shut this thing down last night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this has been above board from everybody else's perspective and everybody else who's gotten a meeting. New Orleans, Atlanta, Carolina, Cleveland. Everybody's meeting with Deshaun Watson, from owners, the GMs, to head coaches. This is the greatest subterfuge of all time. I don't know if you heard me while you were in the green room, Joe, but I mean, if the Eagles are in on this is amazing. I've never seen anything like it. If they've been able to keep it at this quiet, I'd be impressed.
I give it credit on two reasons. One, we all know Barrett. We all know how much of a stand-up guy Barrett is. We know how well connected Barrett is. So it comes from Barrett, whose word is gold with me, like the two of yous. So it comes from Barrett. And secondly, so that lends legitimacy to it. And secondly, I like to say Howie is the king of Shadow Nation. Howie is the king. He's the guy lurking in the woods. He's the guy turning around behind the pillar. Ooh, I see things, and that's where I turn around and I'm thinking it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't really shock me. It wouldn't blow me off my doors where I'm falling off my chair if I hear out of the blue that the Eagles have signed Deshaun Watson. Because if you remember, I believe the Eagles were not exactly in the Michael Vick category either. The Eagles.
No, but that was different from this perspective, dude. This has been so very public from everybody else's standpoint because that's the way Deshaun and his agent have wanted it. And, people have had, and by the way, Houston as well is in that conversation as well, because they wanted people to basically give their trade proposals. In other words, give us your trade proposal, and then we'll approve our side of the meeting, and then we'll see if Deshaun wants to meet with you because of the no trade clause. So everything's been so public, whereas Mike, there weren't this wasn't this grandiose, at the time Mike was coming out of federal prison. He was obviously a tremendously talented player, but he wasn't a 26-year-old at the top of his game, at the height of his career, who's arguably a top 5 quarterback in the world. A little bit different from that perspective. But I will say to your point, and I'll add this for Jody, because I have been able to confirm how he is signed through 2025. So is Nick. So they are aligned. Why are people complaining about Howie Roseman? There's going to be a group of people complaining. If he's this good as his job, why aren't the Eagles extending him? Is that a problem?
I think there's some proof here that still has to take place. Howie Roseman, he did the right things. He pushed the right buttons. That 2017 Super Bowl ring does have some longevity, and you said you put it on to is it 2027? So he gets it. I'm sorry, 2025. So he bought himself an 8-year window with that, certainly. And again, he does have a habit of coming out of the blue. I don't think many thought the Eagles were players in the Hassan Reddick situation. and he turned around and pulled that off. So I give Howie a lot of credit when it comes to, again, lurking in the woodwork, sneaking behind the pillars, and coming up with things that no one else expects. And again, John, you're completely correct in terms of as you look at the whole context of things when it comes to that Vic situation. But he did come out of the blue with that.
Oh
So,
yeah.
and that I just put that nugget out there as proof that he is king of the shadow kingdom. He does have a very good habit of being the lurker, the guy that turns around and says, "Oh, who's that silhouette in the distance?" Well, they don't know. It's Howie Roseman.
All right. Well, then, if Deshaun Watson's out of play, we'll just put him to the side. And I still have my questions, but there's nothing we can do about it right now. Who is he lurking on? If it's not Deshaun Watson, what other lurking? What other pillar is Howie behind that he's going to pop out from behind and get something done here, Santoliquito? Because they could still use a veteran quarterback, cornerback. They can still use a veteran safety. They can surely use a veteran wide receiver. Guys have come off the board. None of those positions are barren yet. There are still some available veteran guys, but the top of the top might have come off, and the Eagles might have been players in that neighborhood anywhere. Who else is he lurking on to upgrade this team?
Well, I think right now a lot of their apples, we'll say, have been put in the Deshaun Watson basket, or the basket of what can we do to improve at quarterback. They do have that hammer of 3 first-round draft picks.
So you're still believing they're going to get involved in this, huh?
Oh, I think they are involved in it. I don't know how deeply they're involved in it, but I still will maintain that they're involved in this. And I think again, it wouldn't shock me if it happens. So they have their draft board set. They have those whoever 3 picks they're taking a look at. I think we all agree what areas they should target. But I still believe that there is interest. I can't weigh the interest. I don't know the interest. It's not been fed back to me as the level of interest, but there's still an interest in Deshaun Watson. And when you look at Howie, you look at his track record. Well, he won with a franchise type quarterback with Donovan McNabb. They got to the Super Bowl again in 2017 with what they thought was their franchise type quarterback in Carson Wentz, and Nick Foles came in and did his thing. He's had this thing with nailing that down, getting that position down, and then we'll build around that. I kind of feel bad for Jalen Hurts, because I think he has to be smart enough to realize, well, they think I'm good, but they just don't think I'm good enough. And Jalen has to look at himself too, because Jalen does kind of fit into that category of being good, but not good enough. And it's really a conundrum, because the Eagles, moving forward, they're going to be decent, they're going to be competitive, but do they want to be forever that team that finishes 9-8 or 8-9 every year, and that gets knocked out in the first round of the playoffs? They need someone dynamic to push them over the top, and obviously that starts with the quarterback.
Yeah, it is an interesting contradiction, Joe, because, Howie has spoken most recently, talked with Dave Spadaro, and he used that sort of language that, he wasn't talking about Jalen or Deshaun specifically, but he was just talking in generalities, and said, well, if you want to be like what they were last year and win 9 games, go to the playoffs, overachieve from their perspective, at least a little bit, you can do that, but you got to swing for the fences when it comes to personnel. If you want to, and I believe he used if you want the confetti coming down on your head, in other words, win the Super Bowl. So it has been this interesting sort of disconnect when they talk about Jalen Hurts, and they say, well, we got to build around Jalen Hurts. And you and I have been around this league as much as, as long as we have, and you understand, don't listen to them, watch what they do. I've always thought the Eagles want to upgrade at quarterback. Yeah. I just don't think they have the path to upgrade at quarterback. So I think they've been very savvy to, publicly give those votes of confidence to Jalen Hurts. But I want to ask this because I want to bring Carson back into it and all the, I don't think they have to worry about it this time. Before they had to worry about it. Could you imagine? It didn't even happen, but Carson thought it happened. In other words, they gave him $128 million. We know, funny money, but significant money, largest contract in franchise history. At the time, NFL history. Obviously, that keeps going up and up and up and up. And he still was upset that the Eagles drafted a kid in the second round that all they wanted was a cheap backup quarterback because they had to pay the starter so much.
Mm-hmm.
In this particular case, though, Jalen, you can go do whatever you want. Try to get Deshaun Watson, try to get Russell Wilson, try to get pie in the sky, even try to go get Aaron Rodgers, which was never going to happen. It's not going to affect Jalen Hurts, which is a nice position to be in.
Yeah, it's a beautiful position to be in, and that's just it. If the roles were reversed a few years back now with Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz, Jalen would have said, I'm gonna continue fighting for my job. I don't care who you drafted in the second round. I'm gonna continue to turn around and push, and that's the difference between the two guys. That's regrettably that's why Carson Wentz is with his third team in 3 years. That's why the Eagles, if you think about it, the Eagles made the playoffs, and the Carson Wentz Indianapolis Colts didn't.
Pretty amazing. Yeah, pretty amazing.
I didn't pick the Colts to make the playoffs, so I can honestly say I was not surprised.
You thought they were going to make them, though. Tell the truth, Jody. At the end of the season, when they just needed one win in one of those two games was against Jack. Yeah, but it was the final 2 games.
Yeah,
and one of the final 2 games was Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. I mean, I said, well, they're going to beat Jacksonville at the bare minimum. That was an amazing collapse. And, one of the reasons why Carson's not there, let's be honest.
Before the season started, I did not have the Indianapolis Colts making the playoffs. And when they did not make the playoffs.
So you're not going to admit you at least were wavering when you saw,
here's what I'm admitting to. I told you so. They weren't making the playoffs. They didn't make the playoffs.
Jody will never admit anything. God bless him. You were wavering. I know it.
Except for the fact I didn't. Other than that, you're right. I wavered. Oh, but I didn't. All right, let's not waver on Howie Roseman since he got his contract extension. My wavering is, although you're not wavering, good for you, Santoliquito. You're clinging to Deshaun Watson still coming here. I'm kind of
possibly.
Mac.
I'm saying that he's going to be. The Eagles are still players in this.
I think that ship has sailed. I'm with J Mac on this. I just want to know why the hell it has come to where we are. We don't have all the answers yet, and I want the answers. Not that I'm going to scream bloody murder that they didn't get it done. Just I want to know why. Is Howie Roseman being aggressive with the other positions? If you are at least onto something that they're still in the mix and they're still trying to get a meeting and they're still trying to get someone to talk Deshaun Watson into putting their name on the list. In the meantime, this Eagles team still has holes. They have this draft capital that they're going to be able to use however they choose to use it. But free agency is clicked off another day on the calendar and they still have holes. Is Howie Roseman dropping the ball here, in your opinion?
If he's still waiting and putting all of his so-called apples in that one basket. Now, John, I help me out here. I don't know the exact sum, but it's a very large sum that they have to play with now, don't they? And that's also in the back of my mind thinking they're going to make a play with Deshaun Watson. There is how much they have quite a bit to play with.
Well, comparatively speaking, they started the process. I think they were 6th in the NFC. So compared to where they were, they have a lot of space. Obviously, coming off the Carson dead money issue last year was a really different perspective. But they don't have a ton of money. They don't have Jacksonville Jets money. So I think, for instance, if they were to pull off the miracle and be able to acquire Deshaun Watson, they'd have to do some different things. I mean, they would have to tweak some things. They would have to make some other moves to make Deshaun fit because of his large financial outlay. So right now, I'm just looking at it. So when you factor in over the cap's got him at 15.6 as cap space right now. So, they can do what they want basically. But they don't have that Jacksonville money that they can just give Christian Kirk and pay him like he's the greatest receiver that ever lived.
Like I said, it's still. I'm not gonna waver off of the move that I still think they're players in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, and also doubling down on this, if you want to say, they are also well equipped. I have to throw this up. They're well equipped to deal with the deluge of controversy that they would have to deal with in acquiring Deshaun Watson. Again,
yeah, we haven't even talked about that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Going back to the Vic situation, and remember how they handled that. So this is something here that the Eagles are equipped to deal with both on the field. They got the 3 first-round draft picks. They settled at least some edge rushing answers with Hassan Reddick. Plus, on top of that, this is a team that has already been through the deluge of serious criticism. I have friends, I have relatives. I'm sure you guys have friends and relatives that turned around and jumped off when they turned around and they made the Vic signing. So this is a team that's equipped to deal with. I'm not saying that they dealt with it well, but at least I'm saying they're willing to deal with it, and the infrastructure is there where they have dealt with it, a major situation like this in the past. I'm sure it's going to, if it happens, and I'm not saying it is 100% going to happen. I'm not saying it's 50% that it's going to happen that the Eagles get Deshaun Watson, but I am saying that the Eagles do have things aligned to deal with it if, capital I, capital F, if it did happen.
All right, Joe, last question for me. It's funny, I wasn't going to ask you this, but since you just brought it up, it intrigues me. Friends, neighbors, whatever you just pulled into the Michael Vick situation, who you said got off the Eagle bandwagon. Did they get back on?
Yeah, quickly. It always happens. It always happens, Jody. You hit that right on the head, bro. Yeah, it always seems to happen. And I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Another strike happens in baseball. I'll never watch baseball again. And by early June, mid-June, they're in front of a TV watching the Phillies.
Right.
Yeah, sports
that was what I was trying to make. Yeah. You weather the storm. A couple of protests. You get some angry letters. The Inquirer and the op-ed page. Okay, fine. And then it's back to things as usual. So that's what you have to determine that first. Are you going to be able to weather that storm, and how big that storm's going to be? Your point of Jeff Lurie has been there, done that, I think is well taken. And that's why I'm still questioning. Why don't they have a meeting on the books with Deshaun Watson yet?
Well, maybe they've met him through other means. I don't know.
Zoom.
I don't know.
Zooming their life away with Deshaun Watson, you two? Yeah. I don't believe either one of you.
I'm the one who shut it down on social media. I put myself out there, so I don't think there's anything to it. I think the Eagles are out of the equation. I don't think they're going to acquire Deshaun Watson. If I'm wrong, I'll take the hits, and I will tip the cap right in front of Howie Roseman. I will do it right in front of him. I will say, man, you did a hell of a job on that, because everybody I talked to in this league said, nope, the Eagles haven't met with him. There's no scheduled meeting. I don't know how they're going to pull this off, but they're going to pull it off. So that's why I'm going in a different direction.
Real quick, while I have you two guys, let me throw this out to you two. I had the pleasure covering Hassan Reddick at Haddon Heights. Great kid, really good kid, really good young man.
Yeah.
Where does he fit? Where does he fit in the Eagles defense?
Yeah, that's my concern.
In Gannon, we trust. You have to believe that the defensive coordinator has got a plan, got to pick. Now he's going to have to fit all the other 10 pieces around him. You can't make him the only sole determinant of what kind of defense you're going to play. But I'm a good enough Gannon guy to believe that he will get the most out of a talented player.
Well, I'm not very proud of a lot of things on me physically because I'm chubby and bald, but the eyebrows tell a lot of things, and the eyebrows are going up and down. I don't know about that, Jody. I don't know. I need that trust needs to build.
You're a Gannon doubter too?
I am a Gannon doubter.
I'm supposed to love the guy. Now all of a sudden I'm a Gannon doubter.
Yeah, you are. I'm the only Gannon believer out of all of yous.
Yeah. It's not that I don't believe in him. I think he's going to in fact, I think he's going to utilize him correctly. So I would say I'm more of a Gannon believer than not. I just think it's a very unique player. I always use that term, Joe, unique players. There are certain players that you have to use correctly or they're not going to be effective. And I think the assumption is, and the best player I use is an offensive player. I use as the example. Jody knows this. Deebo Samuel out in San Francisco. You'll hear it all over the NFL. We got to get ourselves a Deebo Samuel type player. Well, you might get somebody with the same traits, but if you don't use them like Kyle uses them, doesn't matter. So if you don't use them correctly, you're not going to have the chance to find the next Deebo Samuel. Hassan Reddick's got a little bit of that from a defensive perspective because he's 6'1", he's 235, he's a tweener. You can't just put him on at defensive end. I think Jonathan's going to use him as a Sam linebacker, pass rusher. Just let him chase the quarterback. That's all I'm saying. No pass coverage. No chasing running backs on wheel routes. And I say that facetiously. Occasionally, you could drop him into a zone. You try to confuse the quarterback, but not for long periods of time. Not for significant portions of his playing time.
And finally, what do you guys feel will happen to Rodney McLeod? I had the pleasure of speaking to him a couple of weeks ago. He wants to come back. Do you think the Eagles want him back?
It's interesting. I think they want to upgrade, but I think he's going to be back. I mean, they haven't been able to make an upgrade at safety. I think they're going to bring one of those two guys back, Rodney McLeod and Anthony Harris. And I think, Rodney is such a pillar of the organization and the community. I think they're going to lean on that and bring it back for, a 1 year, very cost-effective deal. That would be my guess. And they'll probably sign a safety within the next 5 minutes.
Here's the reason why I think Rodney's going to be back. Rodney is in a comparable position to Jalen Hurts. They like him, but they would like to upgrade and get better. Mm-hmm. Well, what we're dealing with Jalen Hurts are the Deshaun Watsons, Russell Wilsons, the top 5 type guys. Who's the top 5 safety they're going to get anyway to supplant Rodney McLeod? He's not out there. Honey Badger's the only one left, and I've heard nothing about them talking to the Honey Badger. So if you're just talking about a middling upgrade, I don't think the Eagles will do that. I think they'll stick with Rodney McLeod. Now, Rodney's not under contract. Jalen Hurts is, so it's not a perfect comparison. But if there was someone to jump in on that you would say that's not only an upgrade, that's a major upgrade, then I would say that Rodney was in trouble of being out of here. But because he's now in a group of individuals that might be better than him, but not that much better than him, if the price is right, I think Rodney's going to be back. So you can write that one down. He's Santoliquito on St. Patrick's Day, my good Irish buddy, is saying they're still in the bidding for Deshaun Watson. Don't believe that for a millisecond. And remember, on St. Patty's Day, Jody Mack said, I think Rodney McLeod is coming back here. Another good Irishman, McLeod. Gotcha. So we got Irishmen all over the place today here on St. Patrick's Day. Joe, good stuff. Thanks,
Joe. You going to the Maxwell Club tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm going this afternoon. I'm excited about it. John Taylor's coming in. We're honoring the great Ray Didinger. We're honoring the great Brian Dawkins. It's going to be an exciting Friday night.
And JAKIB Media, by the way, is going to produce.
Yes. I did. And you're talking to the knucklehead that did the script writing for them. The torment that I put Joe Krause through.
There we go.
Very nice.
And Devin Caney will be there as well, so she'll pretty up the place for.
Is she the first actual Irish person that we've mentioned today? I don't know that we've had any true Irish people. Is Caney Irish? I think she is. We'll have to find out. Joey, good stuff. Enjoy down at AC. Appreciate you hopping on board. Thanks.
Gotcha. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Joe Santoliquito clinging to the Deshaun Watson possibility.
Yeah, man, Jody, I don't know where this is coming from. Joe's right with Barrett. I mean, Barrett's very plugged in, Barrett knows everybody. Barrett's got a lot of credibility. You know, as I mentioned, I got a text from another former player who thinks the Eagles. I just don't. I'd be amazed. I'd give Howie so much credit if he was able. This is like 3D chess level maneuvering. If this is real, that's
True.
all I'll say.
And Joe's a reporter, yourself, you're a reporter. If a fan were saying this, I would understand, because the logic of it is laid out. Howie Roseman went to great lengths to acquire this draft capital, to get 3 first-round draft picks this year. And no one believes that he's actually going to use all 3 of the picks in the slots where they are to just upgrade with youth. Everyone thought that he was going to spin it all off, or at least a big part of it off, to get a player who could step in and help the Eagles next year. And that player, of course, was going to be a quarterback more than anything else. So if you don't believe Howie's going to keep all 3 picks and use them, if you believe that he's going to trade them for a quarterback, and neither one of those 2 things are happening, well, then what the hell? Where are we at? They're not going to use the pick. No, Howie would never use 3 picks, not in 1 year. They're going to get now they're not getting a quarterback because Russell Wilson.
Yeah, well, I've talked about the sense of urgency a lot, Jody. If you're going to do it, the problem is you don't have the draft class. So to me, the sense of urgency has always been there to go get the quarterback this offseason. Problem is the path isn't there. That's the only problem. The Eagles wanted to get better. The Eagles hope to get better. The Eagles want a top 5 quarterback. I just don't think the path is there. And I think we can officially shut it down. Other people's obviously disagree. I see Brandon has popped on, so let's get to a break and get him on a little bit early. We got Bleeding Green Nation Day. We got Joe Santoliquito. We got Brandon Lee Gouton, BLG. More Deshaun Watson, Jody Mack.
Well, will we get the answer from BLG as to why the Eagles didn't get that? All I want to know is the why. I'm not going to debate whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. I just want to know why they didn't get a meeting. We'll ask BLG next. Brandon Lee Gouton going to hop aboard. Got plenty to do here on Birds 365. Please.